Hello everybody and welcome to this, my first of 3 videos on the Canon EOS Digital Rebel XT. We're going to do 3 videos because this is a complex DSLR, and the first video we're going to take a look at what everything on the camera is. In the second video we'll talk about what it does and how to take photos with it. And in the third video we're going to go through the menu system and talk about how to customize this camera to your shooting style, as well as what all the different menu and custom function items do. The Canon EOS Digital Rebel XT, also called the EOS 350D Kiss Digital N, or the universal number here on the bottom, DS126071, is an interchangeable lens digital SLR. Now what that means is that lenses can be taken off and a new one can be put back on at any time, except when you're taking a photo, without affecting your images. It is an SLR, meaning there's a single lens on the front and the light comes through the lens to a mirror, to some other mirrors, and then out to your eye here. And you can see what is going to be on your image sensor right up until when you take the photo. It has an APS-C CMOS 1.6x crop factor 8 megapixel sensor. Now what that means is that the sensor is 8 megapixels. The crop factor is 1.6x. So you can see that this is a 50 millimeter lens. It's a 50 millimeter lens on full frame. On this camera, it would function like an 80 millimeter lens would on full frame. It's still a 50 millimeter lens, but because the usable image area with an APS-C sensor is smaller, this has the same field of view as an 80 millimeter lens. It has a 3 frame per second continuous frame rate with 14 JPEG or 4 raw image file buffer. The ISO range on the camera is 100 to 1600, has no ability to record videos. Shutter speeds are 30 seconds up to 1/4000th. The viewfinder magnification is 0.8x with 95% coverage. Now what that means is that what you see in here is 80% of the size of what will be on the image sensor, and that 95% frame coverage means that if what you are looking at right now is what would reach the sensor, then about 2.5% on each side and 2.5% on the top and bottom would be on the sensor but not in the viewfinder. The focusing screen in the camera, which is right in here, can't really see it, but it's right in there, is fixed and not interchangeable, and it shows the camera's autofocus point. And the flash sync speed on this camera is 1/200th of a second. The Canon EOS Digital Rebel XT was targeted at entry-level users, and we know that because Rebel in the US, and North America really, is the entry-level line. If you have the 350D, the 3 and 4 digit cameras are entry-level, 4 digit being more entry-level than this. And then in Japan, the Kiss line is the indicator that it's an entry-level camera. At the time of this camera's release, it was the base level entry-grade DSLR from Canon. Today, the equivalent camera of this tier, there are 3 tiers below it. This would be the 4th tier up from Canon if it were released today. But at the time of release, it was the base model. It's entirely plastic, which makes it very light, but you can also kind of feel that it has a bit of a plasticky build to it. That said, it's still a very durable camera for the construction. And it's not entirely plastic. It does have a metal lens flange. At the time that this was released, it was the 2nd smallest DSLR on the market. The only one smaller was the Pentax Starist DS. It has a very simple external interface by DSLR standards, and most of the functions in this camera are accessed through the menu button. It was made by Canon in Japan from 2005 until 2006. It was preceded by the Canon EOS Digital Rebel, which was also called the DS6041, the 300D, or the Kiss Digital. It was concurrent with a 20D, 20DA, 5D, 1D Mark II, 1D Mark II-N, and 1DS Mark II, and followed by the Canon Digital Rebel XTI, which is this guy right here. Very similar camera. The XTI was also called the 400D or the Kiss Digital X. So if you have your Canon EOS Digital Rebel XT, next thing we're going to do is go through what everything on the camera is. And we'll start here on the top with the strap lugs, which is what you would attach your strap to. Here we have, this little symbol right here engraved in the camera's body is your film sensor plane indicator. Pop-up flash, flash hot shoe, mode dial index indicating which mode you are set to, on-off switch right here, command dial, shutter button, and you can see here the symbols for these two buttons on the back, the asterisk and the autofocus point selection button. We'll get to these in a second. On the camera's front, we have the infrared remote sensor right here, autofocus assist light, lens mounting flange, lens mount indices, your flash pop-up button right here, which is the button that will pop up the pop-up flash, lens mount release. On the camera's back, we have these buttons, which are your menu, info, jump, play, and delete buttons. The buttons in blue, or the functions in blue over here, are buttons that apply when you are in your playback. So jump, play, and delete are only used when you're playing back images. Upper LCD screen, lower LCD screen. This is basically your data screen and your playback screen. Viewfinder, diopter adjuster wheel, asterisk and zoom out button, autofocus point selection and zoom in button, aperture value or exposure compensation button, drive mode, which would be your self timer, continuous shooting mode, etc. button, print order selection button, which again only applies when you're playing back images, CF card use in light lamp. This is your meter mode selection button, white balance, autofocus, ISO selection, and your set button right here. On the camera's sides, we'll start over here because the cover for this is missing. Video out, remote control, and your mini USB port right here. So video out, this is only if you want to connect this to a video recorder. This is not because the camera can record videos, it cannot record video. We have the remote control port for using an external remote, and then your mini USB port for connecting this to a computer. Now that said, this camera is so old, being a 2005-2006 camera, it's 15 years old as of this video's recording. It is likely that this camera cannot communicate with Windows 10. I believe that some of the newer Canon DSLRs cannot, so I think that is accurate. If that's wrong, somebody will correct me in the comments. But realistically, if you're going to transfer files from this camera to your computer, what you want to do is just move them, pull out the CF card, put it into your computer, and do it that way. That will be much faster than using a mini USB port. On this side over here, we have the CF card port housing, CF card housing, where we will see in the second video how to install a CF card. On the camera's bottom, here we have the battery chamber, which you can use to access and change the battery. There's also a secondary, smaller battery chamber up here, which holds the clock battery, which is a CR2016. So if you turn on your XT, and every time you turn it on, you have to reset the clock, or every time you take out the main battery, you find that you have to reset the clock. That means that the CR2016 battery in your camera needs to be replaced. And it's pretty simple. You just get a little CR2016, swap it out, put it back in. Probably have to do that about once every 3 to 5 years. Serial number with some registration data. Tripod socket right here. Some notes on your Canon EOS Digital Rebel XT. Basically, this is an unlocked 300D with a larger sensor and a better computer in a smaller and lighter package. Functionally, it's almost identical to the previous camera, the Canon EOS Digital Rebel. It accepts CF Type 2 cards and micro drives. Now, as of 2020, I've never encountered a micro drive that still works, and they are significantly slower than CF cards. So if you're going to use this camera, just get a CF card and go with that. Don't try to find a micro drive. This was, as I said, the lowest tier camera at the time to include Canon's digital photo professional software, allowing for TIFF image creation from raw files. Now, that is an interesting point. I've seen dozens of these cameras. I've never had one come with that CD, and I'm not sure that that software would still run on Windows 10. And I'm not sure if this camera's images are compatible with the modern versions of that software or not. Realistically, modern image editing software, even what you can get for free online, is so powerful that if you take the raw files out of this, you're not going to want for anything with that modern software. So if you do have one of these and it has the Canon software, there's no real benefit to you to install it. Just use whatever photo editing software you're using already and bypass the Canon software. Some things not to do with your camera. Don't touch the shutter or mirror. If you touch the shutter, which in these cameras can be very sensitive, your finger oils can impair proper function. Touching the mirror can impair your autofocus as well as make your viewfinder dimmer because your finger oils can tarnish the mirror. Don't leave your camera or lenses in your car because the heat can cause the camera body to warp, so can the cold, but also that's a good way to get your car broken into. Don't store your camera gear in a plastic bag or box unless you have a rechargeable desiccant pack, and that's not the kind that comes with your beef jerky. It's a higher quality rechargeable one that's in a metal container that you can pop into the oven when it's absorbed a bunch of humidity to have that baked off and recharge it. Don't let this get wet. It's not weather sealed. And just remember that your Canon EOS Digital Rebel XT is a precision tool and should be handled with care and respect. And as long as you take care of your camera will take care of you. So that's it for the first video. In the second video, we're going to take a look at how to do everything with this camera. And in the third video, we're going to go through all of the menus in detail and talk about what everything in the menu system is. Thank you for watching this video. Please give me a thumbs up. That lets me know that I'm on the right track producing content which is useful and helpful to you. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those in the comments section below. I'm pretty good about checking these every couple of days and answering questions. If you have any suggestions or ideas for future videos, and if I have the technical know-how and equipment, I'm more than happy to make those. One last thing. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. I gotta get up, Steinbeck. I have to turn off the camera.